To hold a note means to sing one note for a long period of time. Long held notes, sustained with volume and clarity, can sound really beautiful and impressive when singers get them right. The most common times when you hear these are at the end of phrases, at the end of a song, or at a fermata, which is a symbol indicating that the singer holds the note a little bit longer than usual. Let's think of some singers that master this in their well-known songs. Whitney Houston, I think, would pop into everybody's head. We've got Idina Menzel, fantastic music theatre singer. Adele, more of a modern singer who really holds her notes amazingly well. And singers like Barbra Streisand, again, fantastic, good vocal control when holding those notes. Who is it that inspires you to sing long notes? The key to a successful held note is getting it to sound strong from the beginning to the end. So let's think about it. If we could see the note that we are holding, we would want it to be the same size, right from the beginning till the very, very end, and only close that note off when we're finished. If there is a consonant at the end of the word that you're singing, you don't want to make that sound until the end. We want to hold those vowel sounds, good, nice, strong notes, just until the very end and then close off. If you are into the music tech side of things, when editing a song, you can see the frequency and the waves, and they should all be the same size. And that would indicate that a singer is holding a note correctly with the same power, the same volume, and that it's resonating correctly as well. What is it that could obstruct that held note? What people may experience when they're holding notes is they can start to go sharp or flat, or they can experience vocal breaks or cracks in their voice. Perhaps they stop midway because they simply don't have enough air in their lungs to sustain that note, and it starts to trail off and it doesn't have that consistent volume throughout. So tip number 1, breath support. To hold a note, you need to train your breathing and your posture. Standing properly and practicing breathing techniques will train your voice to emerge from you steadily, smoothly, and at greater and greater lengths. Singing uses more breath than speaking, so you might be tempted to gulp in big breaths of air and fill your lungs. This is not as helpful as taking steady, quick breaths as you sing. Practice drawing in ordinary amounts of air at the beginning of each phrase you start to sing. If you catch yourself gulping or gasping, pause and begin again. Trust your lungs to do their job. You will need more air to sing long notes, but you'll get more duration out of a slow exhalation than you will out of a deep inhalation. And when we change the volume, it changes the sound. So here's an example of a quiet note going louder. So that was an example of a quiet note turning into a loud note. So let's try loud to quiet. The force of the note will affect how long you can hold it for, so be prepared with the correct amount of air for the desired length that you want to hold the note for, or what the music tells you to hold the note for. How do we sing long notes without changes in pitch or cracks in your voice happening along the way? Once again, it is breath support. Poor breath support causes pitchiness as we run out of air, and if we start with too much force in that note, it can really cause those cracks that we don't want when we're holding a note. You can hear that, it's almost more like a yelling sound, which obviously is never a nice sound, and it's no good for your voice. It's really dangerous with your vocal cords, so we don't want to ever yell the sound. Master your breath control and you will have a better held note. Okay, so number 2, resonance. Resonance is the intensity/quality of the note that you hear when you're singing. It's that ring or that full tone caused by the reverberation of sound waves in your vibrating vocal cords, depending on how they travel around before exiting your body. So you want a loud, clean, clear sound. Most singers will develop vocal resonance over the years because that's what they train to do to get that really clean, full sound. And that's what you want to achieve when you're holding a note, to get that clear sounding vocal. It's vital because it creates efficient vocal production. Although you increase in volume, you're actually using less air because you're relying heavily on your diaphragm. And having correct diaphragm use is really the key with vocal resonance and being able to hold that long note, that powerful wow note. For more information, or if you want to learn a little bit more about diaphragm use and how to use it correctly, check my video, Singing from Your Diaphragm. Efficient diaphragm use is fundamental, so much so that when singers feel like they're running out of air, they can tense their diaphragm and it just gives them that little bit more power to keep on going with that note. So it is really a secret weapon when singing and definitely one to master. So once you've mastered your vocal resonance, you'll be able to hold that note and you'll know that it is a good, clear, strong sound. Tip number 3, ear tuning. Having a good ear for tuning is so important when singing because we must be able to hear that note, make sure we're singing it correctly, and then maintain that note throughout. We also want to be able to pitch ourselves correctly to the accompanying music. A lot of aspiring singers will often put their hands over their ears when they feel like they're losing their note. And this is the worst thing you can do. You have to be able to train your brain to hear other sounds, be it the accompaniment or backing track or even other singers harmonizing a different tune. You must be able to hear those to be able to pitch yourself correctly. When you start covering your ears, you may actually begin to sing in a different pitch to the others, and then it will all clash and sound out of tune. So training your brain to hear other sounds along with the note you're singing is going to help you sing effectively. A lot of singers and musicians have these noise cancelling headphones, which they play the music through and sing along to. However, you still can't hear your voice quite so well. So it is really important to have the sound away from you and not covering your ears so that you can hear your voice, and that way you can be mindful of the tune and make sure that you are pitched correctly throughout. I know it can be challenging when you're singing with harmonies, or perhaps the accompaniment can throw you a little bit, but it is so important for your progression as a performer, because for how long are you going to sing a song a cappella or just to yourself? The idea is to be able to sing with other musicians, or at least in front of an audience, and there'll always be accompaniment. Let's take, for example, the song The Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera. The very, very last note that he sings, when he sings, "Help me make the music of the night," he holds one note for the whole duration, and in the meantime, the piano is going through the scales. So let's give an example of that so you can hear it. Help me make the music of the night. So it is important to hear your accompaniment, other singers, backing track, so no more putting your finger in your ear when you're stood next to somebody harmonizing with you. Try and train your brain to hear what they're singing and don't let it distract you. So along with your breath support and resonance when singing your vocals, keeping your pitch throughout will really help make a difference. And another tip that you can do is really focus on the note that you're singing. So again, try not to become distracted by things that are around you. Think of that note, think of it, keep it in your mind all the way throughout. Keep remembering what that note is when you're singing, right for the duration that you are supposed to be holding it for. And then your focus on that note in particular will remind you to check if you are going sharp or if you are going flat. And if you aren't sure, you can always record the note that you're singing and listen back to it. But the most beneficial thing you can do is get someone else to do it. Ask for a professional opinion, get some singing lessons, because having somebody else listen to you and critique you is really the best way for your development. One more tip that can help with your pitching, which I always do, is try and find a focal point for your eyeline. So if you are going to hold a note and you're worried about your pitching, if you can keep somewhere for your eyes to focus on, psychologically, it helps you hold that note. And whenever I say this one to my students, it always seems to help them as well. So I think it's not just me. That one is a tip that is really good. And as well, it makes you look professional when you have that focus point. It will keep you really, really clear and straight on that one note, hopefully. And finally, tip number 4 is your embouchure, or your mouth placement. So this is how you shape your face, your lips, your tongue, all those face muscles when singing. And it is quite quite common for singers to get a lazy embouchure or mouth placement when they are singing, particularly if they are new to singing. Perhaps it can be a little bit of a nervous thing. They don't really want to open their mouths too much. But this is so important when holding a note because you are creating a sound. Open your mouth more and really think about the placement of the face muscles, where your tongue is in your mouth will change the sound dramatically. You're creating space, which is going to give a fuller sound. And obviously, the bigger the space, the more full the sound will be. So try and always think about keeping your tongue nice and low, which is attached to your jaw. So keep your jawline low as well, holding your face in one position throughout the note while you're singing it. So try not to get lazy or sloppy throughout. Ah. As you can see, my whole face has dropped and the sound has gone with it as well. So keep focused. Remember to hold that note and focus on your face placement as you do it. So we want to keep the same position for our mouth when holding the note so it doesn't start to change at all throughout. And as I said before, save the consonant, if there is one, to the very, very last second, because we don't want to hold sounds that are going to start to close off our beautiful long held notes. And if you really do sing through the vowel, that's when you'll get that wow factor when holding your note. So hopefully those have been helpful tips for you. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment box below if you've tried them and they've been helpful. Please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel for more music tutorials and covers. And by all means, if you're interested in taking up singing lessons, do feel free to get in touch. So I'm Sophie on vocals from the Murphy School of Music.